Another week, another win. 5 wins out of 6. And our old foes from last season, Sheffield Wednesday, dispatched at Hillsborough. Happy days, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. If anyone in the emails, you won't get it, can guess what song Joe Fairs was quoting just before we came on air, they win all the free tickets to our live event at the home of football, Portman Road, on the 7th of October against Preston North End. Come and join us for Blue Monday Live. God knows, Dave, how many points we'll have by then.
I don't know. So when 7th of October was another 5 games, so that would put us on 30 points, wouldn't it?
It's about another 17 points from those 5 games. We said we'd never be this podcast, Dave, this smug.
I don't know. I never ever thought we'd be this smug doing this pod, but it's kind of nice, isn't it? It's kind of good.
It's well deserved, Joe, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought the championship was supposed to be a step up in quality, but just seem to have taken it in our stride, haven't we?
Of other teams, Joe, listening to this podcast, they're going to hate us completely.
Smugness,
smug mode engaged. So welcome, everybody. If you're watching live on YouTube, please do get involved in the comments. We'll flash as many up as we can during the show. We'll go to a full Q&A. Do hit the thumbs up button. If you are, you're on your Monday morning commute, you're mowing the lawn. You're not going to mow the lawn this time of year, are you? I'll take that one back. If you are at the gym, on the treadmill, or maybe the ski machine listening to us, we really, really appreciate it. You might be doing some squats or some bench presses or something of that nature. We thank you all very, very much for joining us as we go. And I like these ones, Dave. I always remember when we got promoted to the Premier League, going and beating Bradford. And it made me really happy because Bradford really stitched us up 2 seasons before we went up. And this is a bit of a grudge match from last season. And I like what Kieran McKenna said in his interview after this. You know, he's really loved going there and winning, bearing in mind they were one of very few teams we didn't get one over on last season, right?
Yeah, that really stuck with him, I think, didn't it? Certainly the first game we should have won. Second game, obviously, was a little bit more even. But this is the thing about both games went exactly the same way. 2-0 up, away team 2-0 up, and we're hauled back. But I think we did. We certainly owed them one, and well, there was one or two comments on our sort of Telegram group thinking, Sheffield Wednesday away just got a point at Leeds. Perhaps this might be the sort of curveball where we might come unstuck, but obviously not.
Joe, as the de facto smuggest member of our podcast team who predicted like 33 points from the last 11 games last year, you weren't worried remotely about this, were you?
Well, obviously my facade would say no, but it is one where you sort of you see they've got their point. They go into that international break, and you sort of wonder what they come out the other side. But I was pretty confident before the game because they don't seem to have a lot today at the moment, and I just didn't think they'd really be able to cause us problems, and they didn't at all, did they?
Got a really good keeper, Joe.
Yeah, he was really good actually, wasn't he?
Just as well.
But for him, that would have been a much more comfortable victory than it sort of looked at sort of when you look at the result at the end of it.
Yeah, so we kind of set this up on the preview show where, and it seems silly and off topic and tangents, Dave, where we had to spend 10 minutes talking about the ridiculous things the owner had done. But that's kind of been what the Sheffield Wednesday fans have had to put up with and the backdrop for a lot of their football this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's been the narrative from day one, really, wasn't it? I mean, look, they didn't finish February, they'd won the League One in February, hadn't they? I remember coming on the podcast with you, and
we all had them winning it, didn't we?
They've gone. Terrible end of the season. Sort of fell over the line in the playoffs. All right, still had to beat Barnsley at Wembley, but did. Incredible game to get past Peterborough at Hillsborough, and really not that much happening in the close season. Quite, very little investment. Parting of the ways, the well publicised parting of the ways with Darren Moore, and it's. It looks like it's going to be a long, hard winter for them, doesn't it?
It does. But, Joe, it was a little bit of okay, look, I'm going to go back to what happened last season and, the kind of strengths of the team. Obviously, one notable absence that we always seem to end up talking about when we do play Wednesday. But let me just bang through this team, what we were up against, Joe. Vasquez, much more from him later on. He was the best player on the pitch, I think, let alone Wednesday's best player, wasn't he, the keeper? For Maywo, Iorfa and Palmer were all there last season, as was Callum Patterson, although I'm not quite sure where he was around minute whatever we scored in. But Delgado is a new guy down the left-hand side. And then Hendricks come in. He's familiar to the league, isn't he? Byers, obviously we're referring to Bannon, who's Wednesday's best player, who's not there. Gregory wide, not too sure about that. Windass, I'll take that. And Smith up top. So it's a familiar look, Joe, despite the fact there's other players that have come in that weren't in that starting lineup yesterday.
Yeah, and one of the sort of the feelings that people had about Sheffield Wednesday last year was that they're a sort of solid League One side with that extra bit of quality, but one of the problems that they had was they just had a lot of age in the team, didn't they? They didn't really have any youngsters in there. They didn't have a lot of legs in there. So it was very much, it was almost like how Rotherham used to play in that league, where they would just bully you sort of physically and knock the balls forward, play a real quite simple game without a huge amount of pressing or anything like that. And when you look at the new player in the team, Jeff Hendrick, replacing Barry Bannon, well, I don't think that really does much to alleviate the concerns about legs in that side. And I think it just showed there that they're a worse team than they were last year. And I think maybe it's underrated how good a side they were last year, because they were maybe not as flashy as us or as sort of unexpected and flashy as Plymouth were during the season. They were just your solid team that just ground out win after win, put together clean sheets, with just a solid side, sort of 7-8 clean sheets in a row, 96 points they got in the end, didn't they? And I say that they've just shot themselves in the foot so badly in the summer that it's like they wasted a month of the summer, didn't they? And when you're the playoff winner, you lose 2 or 3 weeks anyway. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
And then to have all that, then 2 weeks later you sack the manager, then 2 weeks later you bring your first player in. They're just so far behind, and I just wonder whether the international window would help them catch up. But I just think they're done for this season, really.
You agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Byers, I think, was a big miss for them in the running last season. Got really sort of key, fairly important player. All right, really didn't show it much yesterday, but I think
one lovely free kick, Dave.
Well, okay, yeah, but he wasn't really allowed to, was he? But I think that he was certainly a big miss. But as Joe said, yeah, they're sort of behind the 8 ball right from the start. And you're quite right. You say, the side win the playoffs, and it almost kind of goes against him because you're 3 weeks further down 2 or 3 weeks further down the road. Then, as Joe said, another couple of weeks before they make a sign-in, and before you know it, you're well into pre-season, and the new season's just about to start. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a struggle for them certainly on the basis of yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following it, and from what I can see, and you guys will be able to elaborate more, might have been their worst performance of the season, I think, yesterday, possibly.
Okay.
We'll kind of have a look into that during the week. Well, we won't, frankly, because we're at the start of a 3-game week and everything will be forgotten, won't it? But let's just have a look at the Ipswich 11 then. And in the words of Radiohead, well, maybe one surprise, no surprises. Hladky in goal, Clark, Wolfenden, Burgess, Davis, Morsey, Luongo, Burns. We had a long discussion about the right-hand side, and it is the kind of first choice right-hand side, I guess. Chaplin, Broadhead, and Ladapo in instead of Hurst, which was a in and an R-in. Any particular thoughts on that 11, Dave?
No, I don't think so. Again, there was quite a lot of talk about Jack Taylor getting a start at some point, which, well, let's face it, would have been at the expense of Luongo. I know Morsey was away with Egypt last week, but as you guys said on the pre-match pod, he had barely played any minutes. But no, I still maintain, if they're fit at this stage, Morsey and Luongo starts. Interesting with Taylor, and perhaps this is a bit later on, he didn't get any minutes at all yesterday, so maybe there's something to look at potentially for Tuesday. But no, other than that, there was a lot of talk about Clark and on that right hand side. I think people, and again there was talk that it was clear that Hurst perhaps wasn't going to start. He only joined up back in training late last week, and maybe it was going to be a toss up between Jackson and Ladapo. But yeah, after his 2 goals against Cardiff, yeah, I didn't have an issue with that. I think Ladapo probably deserved a start.
Joe, did you learn anything from the selection? And when I say that, I mean not just about the Saturday, but how that now shapes the rest of the 3-game week?
I think it's a difficult one to know, isn't it? Because the use of subs in the game ended up interesting. That we only used the 3 subs where normally we use 4 or 5, and you change it to give. And it's like, were we just resting? Were we just keeping players fresh, knowing that they're sort of running their race today rather than pushing them ahead on Tuesday? But I guess until we see that team on Tuesday, we don't really know, because I expect the Saturday team to be back to a fuller strength team or full strength team. It's just whether there's any changes, sort of rotations in that Southampton game, isn't there?
Do you want to take this one then, Joe? Because right from the very, very word go, just on top, and the pattern being chances being made, and an excellent performance by Vasquez in goal by Sheffield Wednesday. Really, the only thing keeping this a one goal game, well, or a 0-0 game up until the first goal. What's your take from the top, Joe?
Well, it was about 20 seconds, wasn't it, before Ladapo had his first shot of the game, which was blocked. And I just think from that point on, we just got in behind them so easily, and we had so many times where we just broke past them. I guess the big chance early on was Ladapo's chance again, where Chaplin plays that ball we've seen him play a million times onto Burns' run down that side, picks out Ladapo. But there'd been a lovely bit of play before there where we'd sort of broken the press, started for Ladke. Would have been a brilliant goal, but Ladapo probably should do better there, really. Sort of puts it straight at the keeper. I know he's got to make the save, but that was a gilt-edged chance, wasn't it, that one? But like I say, the amount of times Burns got past his left back, Broadhead sort of kept breaking through the middle, and Davis was playing probably higher than Burns for a lot of the game on that left-hand side.
It's a 5 with 2 holders as well. How was there so much space?
Yeah, I don't know. But the central midfielders, they didn't seem, sort of Hendrick and Byers just didn't seem to know whether one stayed or one went. And they seemed to kept both going. And I guess that's for the goal, wasn't it? When you sort of push us on that far, where, again, it's sort of Burgess has the ball at the back, plays it to Luongo, who sort of dropped into almost like a left-back role, and plays it to Davis, who's, well, left wing, sort of high up there. And Chaplin makes the run. Ladapo pulls the centre backs in with him, but Chaplin makes that run from that halfway line, and nobody is within sort of 20 yards of him from behind him to keeping up with him. And it's like, how can they be so caught out of possession by what was one straight ball, really, wasn't it? Maybe one went with Luongo when they went out there, but it's just, I don't know, it's almost like how you draw those things up on the training ground when you don't expect the opposition side to have any reaction or understanding of what you're going to do. It's almost like you drop here, he goes there, you run there, and goes there. But it was almost like we were playing against training cones at that point for the goal, wasn't it? And I say Chaplin probably gets a little bit lucky with the finish, but it was the most normal Ipswich goal you'll see, isn't it? Midfielder drops in, Davis goes high, pulls it back, Chaplin's there, goal.
I totally agree with Joe though, Dave, because the criminal thing is that's not a quick counter-attack or anything. It's from Ladke from a goal. They should be completely set, and Patterson just loses Davis completely, doesn't he?
Patterson just goes AWOL, doesn't he? I mean, I just don't know what he's doing there. He completely loses him, and Davis is a good 10 yards off him. It's a crazy, and it's such a simple goal. Just going back to that, Joe, but that Ladapo miss, not the first one, but the one where Chaplin plays that ball inside the fullback. The move before that, if that had gone, if he finishes that first time, man, that's just an unbelievable goal, because the football around our box before then with Morsey and Wolfen and bang bang first time was just absolutely outstanding. But yeah, it was just. Yeah, I heard a bit of commentary earlier from Sheffield Wednesday channel, and they're almost calling the goal as soon as Luongo plays the ball wide for over the top and wide for Davis. On this commentary, they pretty much called the goal already. Oh, here comes Chaplin. Oh, that'll be goal. Okay, off we go. It's so simple.
But like Ben said, it wasn't even like it was in transition, was it? Where all of a sudden they're being dragged about. No. It was just a simple pattern of play. Like I say,
there was no beating the press there. There was no beating. It was just straight balls. Yeah, you're right. There was no interchanging, like I said, for the Ladapo move.
Yeah. Why was he painting the post? What's going on there?
Don't know, Joe.
Well, I think he's either just had a baby who was very, very close to having one, so maybe it's painting the nursery. I don't know.
If you just made that up,
the baby thing is true, but that's a guess there, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, he looked like he's doing it with a brush, not a roller as well. Which
it's a definite brush.
Yeah, brush stroke.
And I love Connor Chaplin, but he's even shorter than me, so he's going to need one of those rollers Yes, it's an extender, so he can get all the way up. If imagine if King Arthur had an extender. Let's move on. I just wanted to kind of bring up. I've got the stats. I don't want to bring up my face really massive. Nobody wants to see that. But yeah, that's the first half. 60-40 on the possession. 1.04 to 0.27 on the XG. And I don't know. Is this unreasonable, Dave? Are we at the point now where you're almost looking at a game like this and you're sort of, well, okay, in other games we need to be a bit sharper with the finishing, don't we?
Well, yeah, and I think so. I mean, we should have been out of sight. We said at the start, 3 or 4 certainly wouldn't have flattered us, and certainly wouldn't have been harsh on them, would it? I mean, these are reasonably clear-cut chances, and that continues in the second half to a degree, doesn't it? Fair play to the goalkeeper, but 2 or 3 of those chances, we'll get to in the second half with Hurst. Probably keeper shouldn't really had a chance. So that was more, it was more reflective. And you hear Munoz's comments afterwards. That was more reflective of a 3 or 4-0 game, really, wasn't it? Just on the chances created, the clear chances created. So, yeah, you're right to a degree that you squander chances like that in a game against sharper, better opposition, and you could well pay the price.
Joe, key talking point here at half time. Leif Davis, who, like you say, was playing more like Ryan Giggs or something than a left back for the goal, and another assist out at half time, and Brandon Williams in. Discuss, please, Joe.
Well, initially it is a worry, isn't it, when a player goes down? It looked like he rolled his ankle, didn't it? And then when you look at it, and there's only 2 minutes of injury time left till half time, and they don't even say, look, we'll just sit it off for 2 minutes. We'll give you that 15 minutes over there and see where we are the other side of the break, just to give them that chance. There was no attempt to give him that chance. So it does make you think it's maybe worse, because at that point it's only 1-0. You're not going to go precautionary at that point. If you're 3-0 up, you just get him straight off, don't you? And not worry about it. But yeah, it did make me worried that they wouldn't even give him the sort of 2 minutes till half time. But I think someone spoke to him, didn't they? And he seems to think it's not as bad as it's not as bad as it potentially looked, but I guess he probably doesn't know that at the moment until you've had the scan on it, does he?
I think that's right. I think he left the ground obviously in a protective boot, as you would, I guess, these days. And did he not say, "I'll be all right. We'll strap it up. We'll be there Tuesday"? But yeah, let's hope he is, because we'll get onto Williams and that in the second half now, won't we? But I think
go on.
You're going to miss a play. So probably probably at this stage, the 2 outfield players who are really key are probably Morsey and Davis, aren't they? Davis has just been, again, he's just carried that level on from last season into the Championship, and probably even advanced that level, to be fair. Had a great first half again. And you just miss that natural left-footed width, don't you? And we could all see second half. Well, I thought Williams came on and did well. I thought Williams did well. Probably the most he's played to date in a league game, best game to date. But you get in those positions wide left, and he does have to check back on his right foot. I'm not saying he's got a great right foot, but he obviously hasn't got a left foot. So you will lose, if he's out for any considerable time, you will lose that natural fluidity, let's say, or that left-footed, left-sided player gives you.
And it's interesting that after the game, McKenna said that sort of Williams has been here, but he's been playing as a right back, playing on the right-hand side in training. So maybe whilst he is, I guess we forget he's a left back. He's got 50 odd games in the Premier League behind him. It's a different type of left back, but ultimately, McKenna's going to set the team up, and he'll tweak some bits about that. Means that we'll have it there. Maybe Clark will play higher on the right, and Williams will be the one that sort of drops in alongside the back 2, as opposed to what we're doing the other way. I don't know, but there'll be something that McKenna's got in hand to know what he's doing. And ultimately, if you're looking at just pure player quality, replacing Leif Davis with Brandon Williams shouldn't be a big downgrade in player quality. So it's just up to the manager to get a new game plan sorted, really, isn't it?
Shouldn't be, but I feel it probably is. But yeah.
You're not in favour of bringing Simon Dawkins back and sticking him at left back? That's completely unnecessary and unfair.
Good point, well made. And as we said, I was speaking to my lads about it, and they said, "Dad, didn't Mick Mills play left?" Yeah, okay, fair play. Carry on.
Joe, do you want to take us into the second half? And more chances. And well, I'll say Hurst comes in at 63. And I love this team and I love our strikers, but both of them should have been on the score sheet yesterday, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I think maybe at the time when Hurst came on, Sheffield Wednesday was just starting to get a little bit back into it at that point. The ball wasn't sticking up with Freddie, was it, at that point? And I think when Hurst came on, it just opened the game up for us, his movement again, just pulling defenders about. And yeah, a couple of good chances. I think the first one was the ball. Well, we had the header from Harry Clark, didn't we, from that corner, which was a brilliant save from the keeper. Yeah. And I think he thinks it's in as soon as he heads it from that range, and with that power and that accuracy, it looks a certain goal.
Who took that corner?
Broadhead.
Yeah, it was Broadhead, was it? Yeah. And
nice.
Yeah, and then obviously Harry Clark drops that ball into Hurst, and I don't know, it just doesn't quite sit down for him, does it? And he makes a bit of a mess of the finish, trying to lift it over the keeper, and then he's got another chance. And maybe at that point you look at it again, and when you sort of freeze it up, it's like, could he have squared that ball to Chaplin? And it's probably 2-0, but the striker's going to score that. He's going to shoot there. Broadhead has a chance. Hurst sort of half gets in again as well, and it's just, I don't know. It's funny because it was a 1-0 game, wasn't it? And obviously 1-0 is never comfortable, but it didn't feel particularly uncomfortable, even when they got they had sort of 3 or 4 corners in the last 5 minutes, and none of them felt like they were going to score. And you saw 5 minutes up on the board, and it's like,
without Bannon to take them as well,
could have been 105, and I don't think I'd have been worried. They just seemed so.
I don't know. Smug, Dave,
they just didn't look like they had a goal in them at all, did they?
They were
and
terrible.
that must have been them throwing the kitchen sink at us, really. If you think that they were 1-0 down for half the game, and that was all they managed to do against us. That is, I don't know. I don't know whether it's a good defensive performance from us or just a weak attacking performance from them, or probably like anything, a combination of the two.
Dave, am I just trying to find narrative that's not there at all for this game? That, okay, we missed a couple of chances, but we were by far the better side. Wednesday have been very poor organisationally throughout the club through the summer, and it is what it is.
I think it's fair to say they've regressed somewhat. I think, yeah, it's going to be tough for them, and I feel for their fans. I mean, the owner came out with last week about Moore and his contract negotiations. I mean, it's about airing your dirty linen in public. They don't want to hear it, do they? They really don't. So, yeah, I think, as I said earlier, I think it's going to be a tough season there.
Summary, Dave, great start to this 3-game week, isn't it? And
yeah,
6. All the away games have been won.
We said it. Us, the three of us said it this time last week. If we can get a win against Wednesday, at least it's almost, kind of a free hit. Although the way Southampton, we'll get to this in a minute, the way Southampton have been performing recently, you got to go there again with massive confidence. Yeah, I think you looked at the fixtures at the start of the season. You see the ones, Sunderland away, okay, but relatively fairly gentle leading. I think we'd all agree that. And then the first one that really sticks out, okay, Southampton away on the first midweek batch of games. And that is the one I think everybody looked at and thought, okay, if we'd probably need some points on the board, but by the time we get there, so an important win yesterday, and just go in there with, again, massive confidence, surely, because they're certainly not confident. Oh dear.
As we will come on to, Joe, summarise.
Yeah, like I said, it felt one of those games where we kept creating these sort of opportunities, not really getting good enough clear-cut chance at the end of the sort of openings that we created, but it didn't feel like one of those, if we don't take one of these chances soon, we're going to live to regret it. It just felt so comfortable, didn't it, through the whole game? And like I say, it should give us a real confidence to go into the game on Tuesday against Southampton, especially when you've seen how they played on Friday night, which was an absolute
shambles.
I think we all saw how they played on Friday night. We'll get onto this. Could be the absolute best time or the absolute worst time to face them this coming Tuesday. But we will talk about that in a minute. As I've already plugged, guys, we'll get onto the review of the weekend and we'll get to your questions as well. But the Blue Monday live show is happening after the Preston game on October 7th. Do please come and join us. Tickets now on sale. You can go through our socials, links on bluemonday.itfc.co.uk. Only £8 if you are a Telegram member, so you can get involved in that. £10 for everybody else. Start time's a little bit earlier as well, 7:30 We'll be starting plenty of chat, and I can guarantee we will have 15 points by then. We may even have more points than that, which would be absolutely tremendous. Quickly, ITFC women today, comfortable 5-0 winners over London Bees. Lucy O'Brien, who is one of our sponsored players by Friends of Blue Monday, got her first minutes of the campaign as she steps up her return from injury. Right, here comes a lovely message from our sponsors, and then we'll get into the weekend and we'll get to your questions. See you in 31 seconds. In the words of Jess Stelling, you can count them.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
An AI centre of excellence. That's kind of like half football, isn't it? And half AI. Let's have a look at this weekend of fixtures. As ever, Dave, Joe, pick out anything you want. I'll come to you at the end. It was Hull 1, Coventry 1 on Friday night. Hull improving, Coventry still gelling their new team. Southampton 1, Leicester 4. Don't worry about that. We'll be getting into that. Blackburn 2, Middlesbrough 1. Middlesbrough still, having me predict them to finish in the automatic promotion places, still haven't won a game. Bristol City 0, West Brom 0. Huddersfield 2, Rotherham 0. Press conference at 1 p.m. on Monday. Is the Warnock gone after their Tuesday game? Norwich 1, Stoke 0. Norwich is still good. Preston 2, Plymouth 1. Preston is still very good, and they are top of the league. Preston are better than us, according to the league table. QPR 1, Sunderland 3. Early red card for Jack Colback, changing the game there. Watford 2, Birmingham 0. Red card changing the game in that one as well. Lee Buchanan red carded on 88, 2 goals in stoppage time. I set Twitter alight by suggesting that if the South Wales derby could be played at 7:45, maybe the East Anglian one could, and I had to turn my mentions off in the end. But Cardiff won it 2-0. And this afternoon, I was there covering it. You can check that out on my channel if you want to see what happened at Millwall Leeds. It was Millwall 0, Leeds 3. And that lovely front four that punished us were at it again. Joe, what is leaping like a salmon off the page?
I guess there's a lot of talk about the parachute teams, wasn't there, of Leicester, Southampton, and Leeds, with all the sort of money they've got, all the players that they've sold, the extra bits there. But I think what's maybe been missing is, I won't talk about them, at Norwich and Watford, who are the other two parachute teams, who both seem to have sort of got their act together, don't they? I know Watford are, I think they're 12th, are they? But they're looking better than the team that's in 12th should look. And I think it's not just sort of a couple of parachute teams we're up against now. I think it's 5 decent parachute teams with big budgets going at it this year. And to be honest, the weakest of the 5 I'd say at the moment is probably Southampton, and we'll see. But obviously they're a newer team, and we'll talk about those later. But I think with sort of Leeds, Leicester, Watford, and Norwich, there's 4 decent sides with big budgets there that we're up against.
Sobering thought, isn't it? Dave, anything jumping out to you from this weekend in the Championship?
Too much, I think. Yeah, Middlesbrough again.
Dave, quickly, sorry, I know I always tell you off for interrupting me. Just point out, Tuesday, Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, no, I was going to get to that.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it, actually. Yeah, quite a crucial game on Tuesday, Sheffield Wednesday, Middlesbrough. So immediately, after 6 games, a potential relegation 6-pointer. Yeah, they just can't. Schmodic scored 2. We've got Blackburn down here Saturday, of course. Schmodic scored 2. Should have had a hat trick, actually. They'd 1-on-1 near the end.
He scored for Posh down here a couple of times.
Yes, he has. Yes,
good player.
Yeah. I don't think he totally enamoured himself with our crowd. To be fair,
it was him who nicked the ball off Will Norris's toe, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I think it was.
Will Norris.
And I watched the Southampton Leicester game, and I was kind of half watching it, to be fair. And every time I looked up, certainly second half, it's like Leicester, like 3-on-1. I mean, I know it was just totally bizarre. Yeah, and they've shipped goals, like 16 goals in.
We'll
goals
get
in
to
6
Southampton,
games.
David. We'll
Yeah,
get to
so,
Southampton.
Yeah, no. Other than that, say them up the road, got a sort of pretty hard fought 1-0 win over Stoke. Saw the highlights of that. Stoke looked like they gave it a good go, and probably Norwich did quite well to hold on there by seemingly well to hold on there. But no, other than that, it wasn't quite the crazy set of results as it was the Saturday before the international break, was it? Which was just madness, really. But yeah, I think sort of things perhaps settling down a bit now.
Well, I totally agree, Dave, because if you actually look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bottom 7 all lost, top 4 all won as at the end of the week. I know you can get that at the start of the season where a win is quite powerful, but you're right. It was very much top end won, bottom end lost
as you were
this weekend. Yeah. As you were indeed. Shall we have a look at that lovely table, which does still look very lovely, although
it's gone down.
I was going to say, Joe, I did see a funny tweet on the ITFC thing saying McKenna out. We've dropped down a place. Get him out. But just absolutely fantastic. 15 points from the first 6 games. Again, fair play to Preston. Have they had easier fixtures than us? I don't know. That's for anyone to discuss down there in the comments. As Joe rightly points out, Leicester look powerful. Norwich look powerful. And you've got maybe a couple of surprises there along with us, I guess, in Hull and Birmingham. And I suppose the one we want to point out there is in 9th position, Southampton, who are the lowest of the year 1 parachute teams because Leeds are just behind them.
Another interesting game in the week on Wednesday is Norwich at home to Leicester.
Oh, we are gonna learn a lot about Norwich and Leicester on Wednesday night, aren't we? If anyone wins that by a couple of goals, you'd almost make them de facto title favourites, wouldn't you? If that's a convincing performance by either of those sides. Down the bottom there, still winless, Middlesbrough, incredibly after getting to the playoff semis last season. Our good friends, Sheffield Wednesday, Swansea, and Mike Duff. Did you see that tweet from the Barnsley Twitter after the game? They proper dug Mike Duff out as well, which I thought was half amusing and half a little bit naughty. Rotherham QPR down there as well. We kind of expected them to be so. And yeah, just keep your eye on Huddersfield on Monday lunchtime. We are expecting managerial news out from there.
You see that, Carrick under pressure. They lose at Sheffield Wednesday during the week. Did you see it or not?
Well, how can he not be under pressure?
Well, obviously under pressure. Yeah. But any word in yours?
Well, look,
they finished the season really poorly as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
that's true. Look, they moved heaven and earth to get him and all his staff. So I wouldn't have. I mean, Steve Gibson's not a sacker by trade. So
you'd think, so.
But come on, Dave. Any team with Middlesbrough's aspirations, the longer it goes, even if Carrick looked like a brilliant manager last season, they're not going to.
That is a massive game, isn't it, on Tuesday, so early in the season as well.
Not going to just roll with it, are they? Right, get your questions in, and then we're going to have a lovely little chat about a very, very interesting game against Southampton, which, as Dave kind of alludes to, I'd put down as a 0-pointer, but I may have changed my mind over the last couple of weeks. Let me just start off because this is a boring technical question I can answer. If you go from Premier League to League One in 2 seasons, do you still get parachute payments, Alex? Yes, you do. Sunderland, famously, when Ellis Short bombed it out, who went back-to-back, were receiving a year 2 parachute payment. So if you got that now, that would be £33 million worth of broadcast money whilst they were in League One.
Wow.
You've got to love the old parachute payments. If you're getting them, if you're not getting them, you bloody hate them like the rest of us. But there you go. David, who is the better goalkeeper for Town? Vaz with the ball at his feet, Walton when the ball is in the air. Get your questions in, guys.
What question is that, for goodness sake? I mean, Vaz is very good with the ball at his feet and probably...
Dave, I saw Bart Bialkowski play today. He's not good with the ball at his feet.
No, he wasn't, was he? Bless him. No, Vaz is probably better just about with the ball at his feet. I think Walton's distribution, they've obviously worked on that and certainly was got a lot better towards certainly latter part of last season. Look, Walton's a better all-round. Walton is our number one. Walton is therefore the better all-round goalkeeper. Do I expect him to come straight back in Probably yes, when he's fully fit and up to speed. I mean, do you think if he doesn't play, you think he's back in training now apparently, so you don't think he'll probably play on Tuesday, maybe not Saturday. Do you see him getting a game against Wolves, Joe, risking him against Wolves, something like that?
Well, if he's ready to play, he'll play in that game, won't he? It's just a case of knowing whether he is. But I think someone mentioned in the comments, Hladky will be suspended soon with the.
Oh, that's true.
He's had 3 bookings.
Yeah. All for time wasting. Yeah.
And they are so harsh, some of these, aren't they? It's like, I don't know. I think Craig was talking about it in the Telegram yesterday. It's like the Sheffield Wednesday keeper was taking longer for his goal kicks in the first half, but because they're drawing, it doesn't count.
If you're leading,
as soon as you're winning, they're like, get the cards out. It's like you still got to allow the team to set up effectively to take a goal kick, don't they? But I don't know. But I've never seen a keeper be booked 3 times in 6 games since mad Jens Lehmann left the English leagues.
Mention for Jens Lehmann, unbelievable. I do think though, after all of that furore on round 1. Do think we're in a net game with time wasting, and we were moaning about that when we were in League One a lot. So we can't have it both ways, can we? I'll put this question up, but there's no real debate about it. Should Benjamin Bloom be knighted?
Jason, he's got.
Jason, what is the points tally that keeps you in the championship? As a rule, Jason, it's 45 to survive. If you get 45 over the past, I think 10 years, you generally stay up. There's the odd weird year where Charlton went down with 49 when Wigan got points deduction. And
I think Peterborough got like 55 one year, didn't they?
Yeah, 54, 55 was a mental year when there was a whole squeeze on the table. Who am I going to next? Joe, is that Wales shirt in tribute to Brody and Burns?
No, it's not. It's Paisley or Parsley. I always get it wrong. And my other half always corrects me.
I think it'd be Parsley, Joe.
Parsley. Joe, we'll stay with you then, being you batted that question away like Seb talking about ticket touting on the. He was like a politician, Seb, wasn't he, on Thursday? He just wasn't going to touch that stuff, was he? The Seb's ticket hut. Skip. When will we see Scarlett, and in what position?
Well, he is a number 9, isn't he, Scarlett? So I do expect him to be the player that sort of rotates the minutes with George Hurst once he's up to speed. I think obviously it's great for him that he went away with England under-21s to make his debut at that level, but it would probably been handy if he'd have been in the building, so to speak, to work through our patterns of play, to work through what we're doing, and it will take him a little while to get up to speed, but I think he was just a bit unlucky on the first game. Hurst's injury was so early that he probably wasn't seen ready for an hour, and then the Dapo comes on, scores a couple of goals and earns and keeps the shirt for Saturday's game. But I'm sure we'll see him sooner rather than later, sort of going through the middle.
There's good questions. Sorry, Dave, quickly. There's good questions there, Edward and Rodney, about Southampton. We'll just hold that when we talk about that. Go ahead, Dave, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think it makes for what could potentially be a really interesting lineup against Wolves next week.
Dave from Jason, in January, which position do you think we need to strengthen?
Probably, it's a tough one, isn't it? Maybe another, a focal point target man potentially. Look, I don't want to tempt fate. Depending on Davis's injury, maybe another left-sided defender. A lot, I think, will depend on if they can get Tuanzebe fit and up to speed, because he could be, as we said, excellent, and he is that left-sided option. So that's where I see it, but a long way to go between now and January. Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. Joe Norman, Borough play Wednesday on Tuesday. Easy for you to say. Will the losers sack their manager the next day?
I don't think Middlesbrough will. I know we spoke about it briefly, but I don't think Carrick's going to get the bullet unless they look like they're in sort of serious danger of going down, which they're not at the moment. They're still playing decent.
Mr. Chansiri, on the other hand, Joe.
But yeah, who knows with Sheffield Wednesday? It wouldn't surprise me in any way if I found out they had, and Carlton Palmer was brought in. Oh no, not Carlton Palmer. He hates him, doesn't he?
That would be so good. Someone said in the chat they make Bannon like a Kenny Dalglish player, manager. Anir, can you please stop winning? Thanks. To be honest, it is getting a bit boring now.
I'm going off it, to be fair. I pine for the days of sort of rubbish defeats, really. But I won't tempt fate. I better not tempt fate.
Mick in 17-18, the 7 draws in a row. Did we do that? Was a lot of 1-1s in there as well. Tremendous,
dire, wasn't it? Dire.
Tremendous stuff. Eric, I'm concerned about Davis being out. Could we see our first banana skin?
I don't think we can sort of see Southampton as a banana skin. It's almost, especially with the points we've got on the board, it's almost a free hit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, shall we move on to Southampton? And I'm going to enjoy setting this up because I always love to talk to Joe about Russ Martin because I'm a fan of Russ Martin and Joe is less trusting, let's just say, than I am. We often disagree, although that is not an argument at the moment that I'm having much success with. I have to confess. So we've got this ultra possession manager who's been quite streaky, particularly at Swansea. And I've got to admit, I worked on the show. We were literally looking out for it. Oh, Swansea have conceded. Someone get that up. Is that another back pass? Playing out from the back, mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Started this season pretty well. But when you actually look at who they've beaten, I think I'm right in saying Southampton have beaten QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, and Plymouth. So we are talking either ex-League One sides. I know we're one, go figure. And QPR, who struggled badly. And probably this was slightly before their improvement. The last 2 games for Southampton have been an absolute disaster, whereas I think Dave pointed out, they've conceded early and not all from playing out from the back in the Sunderland game. That was particularly shots from the edge of the box and don't think Bazunu had a great game in that one in goal. And then it got stretched and they chase it and a 3 turned to a 5, It happens. Whereas I'm sure we were all watching with great interest on Friday night, where it was 2 goals playing out from the back with Bazunu, and then Harwood Bellis, who virtually didn't put a foot wrong for Burnley last season. But it looked very much like one of these things of, right, what's the pattern from the goal kick? It's this. I can either play here. Leicester had it all scouted, blocked the passing lines, and just gave the ball away. So it looked very concerning. It's a ridiculous goal as well, where the last man from the corner is inside his own half, and Steph Mavadidi ran from about 60. You remember that Danjuma goal in the playoffs against Brentford? It was absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it?
And
so
I think he was on a yellow as well. So he was last man back in his own half and on a yellow. So it's like, come on, give him a chance.
Just knocked it one side of him, didn't he?
Yeah. So I think I've set it up. We'll go to you first, Joe, being you're less trusting of Russ Martin than me. But it does feel they are shot on confidence. The fans are not buying in at all. And it's one of those games where it's a stadium ready to turn if there's a mistake or an errant passage of play out from the back. Anyway, what are your thoughts on how I've set it up and Southampton in general?
Yeah, well, like you said, the fans were booing after 3 minutes against Leicester on Friday night. The fans had turned at that point because they'd conceded a goal and nearly conceded another one straight away. But I said my sort of feelings on Russell Martin is he talks a very good game. He talks about what he wants to play, and his sides have a very clear identity of what he wants them to do. And I think that is an identity that could work. But just whenever I've seen him, I've never seen him win a pressure game. I know maybe the Cardiff games are probably the ones where they're like that, but sort of actually when you've got actual league table pressure on you, it's sort of almost like at the sort of back end of the season when they're sort of 15 points ahead of relegation, 20 points off the playoffs, they might put a run together where they'll win 5 out of 6 games, and then all of a sudden people think, oh, maybe they might push for the playoffs, but they're just not even. And but if they do get close enough to it, though, then we'll just lose to sort of pull them back away from the pack. And I don't see what he's done to have got the sort of the promotions in jobs that he's got from. I don't think he did enough at MK Dons to get the jump to Swansea. I don't think he did anywhere near enough at Swansea to get the jump to Southampton. And
bearing in mind, Joe, it was Steve Cooper at Swansea before, who's a brilliant manager, isn't he?
Yeah, and he got them to the playoffs 2 years in a row, and sort of with all the same problems he had to deal with. And like I said, I watched the Sunderland game, and not fully. I was in the sort of the lounge, and it was on while I was sort of eating my dinner and having it on there. But the Leicester game, I watched that closely, and their defensive work is just appalling. Like it was embarrassing the amount of space Leicester got, how easy they found it to just break through and sort of be 3-4-on-1 there. And like I say, they conceded 4 to Norwich, conceded 5 to Sunderland, conceded 4 to Leicester on Friday, and that 4 could have been 8, and it wouldn't have been. That wouldn't have been. But but then you look at the other side; they could have scored 3, but. I don't know. I do not think for 1 second that Russell Martin's going to be able to outcoach Kieran McKenna on Tuesday night. I think if Kieran McKenna's going to be able to set us up in a way that it's going to be able to exploit Russell Martin and how he sets Southampton up, but there is obviously an issue that Southampton's got a huge amount of quality players. They will create some attacking chances, and if they score some of those, then they're going to win the game. So it's not a case of McKenna's better than Martin, we're just going to turn up there, he's going to coach us and we're going to roll him over 3-0 and come home. It's never going to be anything that easy. It could play out like that and be that easy, but with the quality they've got, that is just what is saving them at the moment. But I just think they look so far off. It's so disorganised. Like you was talking about the press, the ball was just going into their right back and he just did not know what to do with the ball and just kept trying to come back inside, and it was just easy. And I can't imagine Kieran McKenna's doing anything but licking his lips together, looking ahead to this game on Tuesday night for a chance to go there under little press, because if we lose, we've still got 15 points after 7 games, but we can go there, and that is a game which you've got to put a big red circle around thinking we can go there and win this.
I'll push back on a couple of things. I think at Swansea, the owners were dreadful, weren't they? And he should have got more in terms of that last January transfer window. And I will say, I do agree with Joe that the defending was horrible. The Dewsbury Hall assist for the second goal was absolutely class. And
on a level, wasn't he? Yeah.
And Ndidi's feet for the third goal was quality. So I do think they finished well. We didn't at Sheffield Wednesday, did we? So there's a difference between the finishing, but in the main, Joe, I've got no comeback in terms of disagreeing with anything you've said there, really. What's your take, Dave, on this brilliant squad, but not quite linked up in terms of the pattern of play?
It's just not together. It's just not together. And like Joe, I was dipping in and out a bit of the Leicester game, but I watched fair bit of it, and to me, defensively, they just seemed all over the place at 6s and 7s. And I think I saw even 1 or 2 comments earlier from their fans on, I think it could have been on TWTD or something like that, basically saying that, with your pace, I could see maybe a high scoring draw perhaps on Tuesday, maybe a 2-2 or even 3-3, something like that. You can see the game going like that. Interesting to see, put them to one side. But again, interesting to see the team we start with.
Well, let's get into that, Joe. What do you envisage it looking like? Bearing in mind, Davis is very, very unlikely not to be there as a starting point, and then you've got the Hurst-Ladapo conundrum, and then do you freshen up anywhere?
I guess you've got the option sort of is this a game for Caden Jackson to start when it is just that pure pace on the break when they're
sorry, Joe. A few people had suggested that and asked that in the chat. Yeah. So sorry, go on, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, if Hurst maybe isn't fully fit as yet, is it a game where you start Jackson just to try and exploit that and then go from there? Maybe there's been talk of Jack Taylor. I think there's talk of him ahead of the weekend. Obviously, Luongo and Morsey had another dominant performance in there, but Jack Taylor and his runs from sort of midfield, that energy he's got getting up and down the pitch and being able to get on the end of things and score goals, is that what you want to go with, or do you worry about losing the maybe more defensive solidness that Luongo gives you there? So I don't know. There's sort of pros and cons for each selection, isn't there? But I think we probably won't make as many changes as people expect. There was talk. I think McKenna said that after 70 minutes, Wes Burns' hamstring was really tight on Saturday. That's why he went off. Is that maybe where Caden Jackson comes into the team in that position there? Do we have to have a slight rejig with Leif Davis not playing on the left? Is that maybe where you play Jackson in one of the forward roles of the chess piece to be a guy that pushes on further on the left and Williams can do? There's so many options.
Those fullbacks are constantly playing right in front of the 2 centre-backs. So there's a massive chasm of space, as you pointed out, down the sides for someone like Jackson to run into.
And it is just that bravery you'll probably need to let players go, to let Walker Peters come inside, knowing that we back ourselves to get the ball and try and trigger someone in behind him. But it's that, I don't know, there are going to be times and areas on the pitch where we are going to defend 1v1, and that's going to be a big ask on defenders 1v1 with some of the players of the quality that they've got there. But I guess if you can try and keep that game sort of tight for the first well, obviously you want an early goal, but if you can get that crowd turning on them, I think you're going to get yourself in a good position, because that will turn badly there, because Friday night was bad enough.
Well, that's interesting, Dave. If I can just bat it to you on what Joe said, because when we were really open against Leeds and it was class players, Sinisterra, I know he's gone since, but Rutter and Nonto and Pirro, you look, Sulemana, I think they're going to appeal the red card tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that could work. But Edozie, he got a knock, but even Armstrong's got loads of pace. Ryan Fraser, one of our favourites from Pod Season 1. What's your take on that? And also just our fullback position.
Yeah, they've got some class players. And you'd think, Davis, you would think is not going to be fit. So, Williams is going to play there. Although, despite, what I was saying about having in an offensive role, having a check back on his right foot, I think he's more than adequate there. And I think I tend to agree that Jackson perhaps will start this one in place of Ladapo. His finishing perhaps wasn't brilliant at the weekend, was it? So perhaps that's a start for Joe. Well, then it's a hard one. Will Hurst come back into come straight back into it? It's a difficult one to call. I think Jackson for his pace will certainly get a start, and I think Williams at full back, and then I don't think Taylor will start this one, despite being fresh and not coming off the bench yesterday. I don't think he'll start. I think it'll still be Luongo was superb again yesterday, wasn't he? And Morsey. I think Morsey's sitting on 3 or 4 bookings at the moment. Joe, was it 4? Yeah. So, I mean, he's close, isn't he? So, Taylor's going to be, hopefully more than ready to step up when that happens, because surely that will happen this season.
It's definitely changed the dynamic, though, Joe. And, from this potential, I know people hate it when we use the term, but this potential free hit to, is that a game you can really, really go and win? And it's such a balancing act, isn't it, with Blackburn at home at the weekend and wanting to have something in reserve for a home game at Portman Road against, a good team and a good championship manager in Thomason, but not a parachute team, and you're playing them at home.
You take a point. You take a point now Tuesday, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
and no injuries. Yeah.
But I don't think there's any game where McKenna is going to set us up to not go out and win the game.
Oh no.
And there's no need not to as well. So you just try and win that game, and then you just think about Blackburn come that. I do wonder, because we did rotate the squad around quite a bit at the start of the season, but once we sort of got to January, and we then almost found that 11, which everyone can name, the 11 that just sort of bowled us over the line through January, we haven't really changed the team much since then. So I do wonder whether McKenna has learned from that, or whether he feels that the rotation at the start of the season allowed us to have the end of the season, or whether that actually you just ride that team as hard as you can, and they do have the energy, they do have the fitness, and if people need to come out because they're in a red zone or whatever the term is, then you drop 1 or 2 out at a time there, as opposed to just rotating almost just for rotation's sake sometimes.
I think you're right, Joe. I think it's just the whole fitness levels of the squad is just on a completely different layer, isn't it now?
Because it's interesting. He spoke about he did an interview with the Telegraph, didn't he, last week, and he said in that in League One, it's in the sort of the bottom 3 leagues in Europe with regards to fitness, sprint intensity, number of sprints, where the Championship is in the sort of top 3 in Europe, so including all the top tiers. So, and he said that sort of like the fittest team in League One is almost like the least fit team in the Championship there. So the levels of what you've got to do to go up are just so high.
That parlays back into your Sheffield Wednesday point, Joe, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also the games are a lot shorter in League One because of all the time wasting, and that's been doubled up this year with this extra added on time as well. So not only have you got to step up with the extra 3 or 4 minutes extra a game, you've now got an extra 8 or 9 on top of that as well.
Oh, so Dave's talking about scoring draws. I think I'm probably in Dave's camp, but then I don't know whether I'm in like some cognitive dissonance, because I actually think we can go and win, and I'm scared to say it. We can definitely go and score. We always score. So, Joe, have you got any kind of predictions? Get your predictions in the chat, by the way. Bearing in mind we've got no preview show for this one because it's a 3-game week.
No, I'd like some confidence. I've put on a couple of bets on us to sort of win by 2 or win by 3, just because I think the odds are so big that I could easily see the game going that way, if that makes sense. As opposed to, I don't think it's going to happen necessarily, but if we get on top early, that could easily become a game that we go out and win 4-5-0. I don't think that is what. I'm not expecting that to happen, but it doesn't feel outside the realms of possibility that does. But it's it's just a difficult game, isn't it? You look at it there, and obviously hindsight will tell us after the game whether it was a good time to play them or a bad time to play them. But I don't think that Russell Martin's going to be doing anything more than doubling down on what he does. I don't think he's going to be going back, trying to get some points on the board, trying to sort of stop the rot, so to speak, and sort of turn it around. I think he's going to go there and play how he wants to play. And like I say, I do think McKenna is going to outcoach him, and it's just up to us to make sure we get that little bit of luck in both boxes, isn't it?
Yeah. Have we ever won at St Mary's?
I remember Alan Lee's debut. I think he scored a couple of goals when we won there. I can't think of any others though. Yeah.
2007 would that have been?
Yeah, about then. Yeah, 7.
Who scored that goal when I went with you in the FA Cup? One of their fullbacks.
Thomas. Whack. Was it
what
Thomas?
Was his first name? Wayne?
Wayne Thomas. Whackety
Was
whack.
he left back? Yeah. Roy Keane was the manager.
I think Mikel Antonio scored in that game.
Mikel Antonio did score, and Pablo scored our consolation, didn't he? But my God, that was a whackety whack, wasn't it? Thundered it in the top corner.
Why can I only remember Neil 3 Marcus Stewart hat-trick? Dave was very careful to specify St Mary's there.
St Mary's, sorry.
Don't give us an excuse to talk about.
No, we shouldn't do. No, that was very much the last season of the Dell, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, one of the greatest hat-tricks I think any.
It was the last ever night game at the Dell.
Was it actually?
Was last time? No, well, yeah, it was.
And we were the last club team to win at Wembley, weren't we?
That must have been March 2001. Wow, yeah. And then I said 3-3. There was a classic. There was a 3-3 draw with the season later the
Venus goal, yeah.
Rocket.
Venus flytrap.
Who was the guy? Marion Pahar.
Right. Someone's going to mention Chris
Latvian Michael Owen.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Latvian Michael Owen.
To be fair, when they had Glenn Hoddle for a while, I remember them coming to Portman Road and really playing well. I think we might have beaten them, but they played beautiful football under James Beattie up front. Maybe they took the lead and we beat them. I can't remember.
I think they beat us 1-0, didn't they? I think. Or am I thinking of the
cup
game
win?
Here?
Was it?
Dean Richards scored a goal.
That was a cup match, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were still in the second tier then, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
I was thinking that it was it Rory Delap scored against, but I think he was at Derby at the time and they beat us 1-0. Yeah.
Rory Delap deflected one, and Mark Poom was nearly as good as that Vasquez. But Chris Riggott played brilliantly as well. The centre half, Chris Riggott. There you go, guys. Thank you so much. I think we'll call it quits, being we've just rambled aimlessly about Southampton games, not remembered any of the details correctly whatsoever. Later this week, I don't know if we've got a final decision. The Blue Monday WhatsApp group was going round and round on whether we'll be live after the game tomorrow. I'm being very carelessly showing you the Blue Monday WhatsApp group here. Let's just stop waving my phone around as I talk with my hands like Gino De Campo. But we may be live after the game on Tuesday night. We may be live on Wednesday. There'll definitely be a preview show before the Blackburn game. And I'm sure the three of us will be here next Sunday post the Blackburn game. Thick and fast is all I will say. Quick one here. Just make sure you hit like if you're watching on YouTube right now. And if you do listen on the pod, feel free to come and join us live each and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Don't forget you can get your Blue Monday Live tickets after the Preston game. Come and hang out with us. Going to be a great night there as well. Dave, how you feeling then? Game one of this week down. Last words from you.
Feeling pretty good, mate. Can I just say something on not on a negative note, but a really good friend of mine, very sadly, passed away on Friday. Die-hard supporter of the club. Used to go, back in the day in the Robson years, home and away with him, Gary, Gerald, Jammy. So thoughts go out to his family and close friends as well.
Yeah, well said. Last word from you, Joe.
looking forward to getting down to St Mary's on Tuesday. So hopefully I might see some of our viewers and listeners there. So come and say hello if I do see you.
Yes, I will be there too. And if Joe Fairs is really, really lucky, I will buy him a beverage of his choice. Are you feeling lucky, Joe?
Always lucky.
Are you there? You're there Saturday as well, Ben, aren't you? Blackburn. Are you hoping to be there Saturday?
Dave, I get enough stick from Ipswich fans. Yes, that is 2 games in a row for me in a week. How about that? There you go. But I'll be there.
I think in the comments, Philip is desperate to know if anyone guessed a song, but
no one guessed the song.
No one would ever guess.
The line Joe Fairs said was "Face getting popular. See me on the telly. Yeah, So Solid Vampire." So it was 21 seconds by the So Solid crew in reference to Jamie Vardy's goal on Friday night. You were never going to get it. That's why I was safe with giving those Blue Monday Live tickets out. Joe in hospitality. Yeah, of course he's in there, Lee, isn't he? Right. And on that note, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be back either on Tuesday or Wednesday. And we will see you for that. Take care, everyone.